Hey everybody, thanks for joining me here at my channel, and thank you for joining us here on our Tuesday evening premiere train, Choo Choo Tuesday. If you are actually here with us at the time of premiere, we love having you. I'm going to be using a variety of colors in this Dutch pour, and I'm just taking a little time here, panning slowly to give you a little peek as to what they are. I happen to have some of these Americana by Deco Art bottles around for a while. I had been in the habit of purchasing those small bottles more in the beginning of my fluid art adventures, which is something that most new artists commonly do. And this Amsterdam color is one of their dark purples, and unfortunately the name has rubbed off the side of the container and I no longer recall what it is exactly. And of course I have some white back there, another Deco Art color. I have the Arteza Bordeaux Red, Amsterdam Gold, and that Deco Art Metallics Splendid Gold, which is in the bottle over to the right. We'll pan back to that in just a moment. But that is what is on my background. And I did brush on a coat of that first across my canvases, allowed it to dry, and then of course I'll be blowing a thin coat of that over the top once again as we get into getting going with the Dutch pour. I did this of course because I wanted my background to have excellent coverage, and I wanted it to really be solid all the way through. Look at that beautiful consistency. This is going to be a Dutch pour, so that consistency is pretty thin. Alright my friends, I wanted to take a moment and just show you these beautiful array of colors, but we are going to be getting going now. And so once again we do thank you, and even if you are watching on the replay, then please check out the other artists in our premiere train. We have Lori of Lori Houston Art, Camille of Camile Amoy Art, and myself this evening. Nate of Nate Bright Art normally joins us, but he's been away on a trip, and well, it's my understanding I don't think he's available this week. I don't know. Maybe he was. All right. Well, he's normally a part of our train, and I will include in the description all of the participants in this week's train. Sometimes, of course, we each have something we have to do and aren't able to participate as we normally do. So anyway, I'm just blowing this gold across the canvas, and I did speed up the footage here so that it would, just go a little bit quicker. We don't need to see all of that in real time every single time we watch a Dutch pour, now do we? Certainly not, certainly not. And I'm just adding a little bit more in there just to make sure that that coverage going down in the sides is really good. Some people touch up their edges on the other side of their pour, but I don't really find that I like the results of doing that, because oftentimes other colors might be also mixed in, and I find it sometimes not as easy to touch up as nicely as what fell over the side naturally when other colors are in the mix. Of course, sometimes it does happen. I do have to make touch-ups like that at times, but I really prefer to do what I can to help ensure that my chances of having to do that are very slim. And I would say that most of the time it really does work out that way. But of course, other people do prefer to do it differently, and they probably just have a way of doing their touch-ups that really work out very well in the end result, and I am probably just missing whatever that little touch is that they have that makes that work. So I'm just going to start drizzling on my lines here, and I'm just picking up the colors. Of course, I want to take some consideration into what I'm putting next to other things, but I'm not really going to keep these lines 100% straight. I will be weaving them just slightly over and through each other, but I will be doing what I can within that to be somewhat alternating lighter shades and darker shades to help us to have a nice amount of contrast in the end result. It's very interesting. I first got some of these metallics from Deco Art back in the day, and I didn't really like them that much. I think it was probably before I started finding out about things like extreme sheen and all of that, which of course is by Deco Art also. But I'm really talking about these metallics in their metallics line. I didn't really actually like the colors that much, and so I sometimes would get a little bottle here or there and then just kind of keep it around. But for some reason, lately, I've really been drawn to use some of these metallics, especially as a background. So I happen to have this metallic gold, and I really wanted to use this over something like 24K, and I did think about putting 24K in the background. And of course that would have a beautiful result as well. It would look different. But when I really thought about the deeper tone of this particular gold, which honestly sometimes I have not really been drawn to, but for some of my more recent paintings, I actually have. That dahlia that I showed, that Camile Amoy style dahlia that I showed you, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago at this point, whenever it was, I had the same color gold in the background. And in fact, I actually used some of the colors of paints that I used in this painting here. But of course they were of a thicker consistency. So here, of course, I'm blowing. You'll see from another angle in a moment, but I wanted to try to show a little bit more of me blowing it out, because so many Dutch pours I've done, I don't really have good camera angles to show that part, and so it's a little bit disappointing. But anyway, there's something really interesting about this. Because of the metallics, the paint, it did disappear a little bit more than I usually get when I have a more solid background oftentimes. But there is something really interesting to me about how this came out, and I do think I will attempt to do other Dutch pours in the near future where I use this type of gold background and maybe the same type of colors, but also some different ones and maybe different brands of paint also, just to see what other type of results I get. And I can also maybe further verify if the result of this one really is in part because of the metallic background, or if it's just the way that this one came out. Now, of course, oftentimes our paints can sink down into metallic backgrounds, but I just really haven't used this particular type of paint all that much. Really, I've barely used it at all until somewhat recently. So I have to actually just use it more so that I can get a better understanding of what it really does. Alright, so I know Rinske Downa, when she blows her paint, she looks so much more pretty. She puts all her makeup on and her hair is nice and she looks so beautiful. I didn't feel like going through so much time to make myself look so beautiful, but anyway, I did want to show you a little bit of that. But of course, you know, if you've been doing Dutch pours, you understand how to blow the paint. Yeah, so I do, when I'm looking at this film back, I do believe that I was having problems with the color sinking, because I'm noticing I keep coming back and blowing the more dense parts of the color out again. So I do, as I'm watching, I do think that that is what happened. So I did this painting a few weeks ago. I did it right before I did that dahlia that I showed, that I put up on my channel. I think at this point it was 3 weeks ago that I posted that particular painting. So I did this painting here right before I did that dahlia, actually, but I was so happy with the dahlia that I couldn't wait to post it, so I decided to post it first. I actually had some other video I was going to do, and I was so excited about the dahlia that I had to bump it for the dahlia. But anyway, I do think this is very interesting. It's not exactly what I was going for in the wispy outer edges of the blowout. And I do believe that is because I did experience some of that color sinking into the gold. So even though it doesn't really have the exact appearance I was going for, I do think it's really interesting though. There's something about it that kind of reminds me of a little bit of an Asian type of flavor. And of course the coloring might play a slight part in that with some of those reds and the golds. Of course I do have some berry colors and a little bit like magenta or something like that, which isn't exactly a hardcore Asian type color, but I think because of the gold and the red part of it and just the way that this came out, I get a little bit of that feel. But you can let me know if you see it that way too, or in what way do you see it. I would be interested to hear from you, and I appreciate you taking the time to give the comments. So one thing I really do like is how the flow from one canvas to the other went. Sometimes when I have attempted to do something like a Dutch pour and I'm doing, you know, multiple canvas pieces, sometimes it hasn't always joined in quite as wonderful as a way of what I would have liked. But in this case, I'm actually pretty pleased with how that part turned out. And there's a lot of really pretty lacing and just different little bits of detail and interest from the interactions of the paint that I'm very pleased with. I did have that Amsterdam white that I did drizzle on there, and I did expect that to sit on top a little bit more and give me more of that lacing reaction, but for whatever reason it seems to have kind of disappeared for the most part. But I do think overall it's pretty interesting. So again, my friends, be sure to visit all of the artists, and I wish you an absolutely lovely and beautiful evening if you are here with us at the time of premiere, and I look forward to seeing you back at my channel again soon.